Good morning. It was 2:30 a.m. on a Tuesday morning, 7 hours after our concert at Carnegie Hall, that I woke up and could not get back to sleep. In my head, I heard the lyrics of Once Upon a Morning, as if I were stuck in an elevator for hours, the music being piped in and repeating. This is the thing about music. It soaks into our whole being like a sticky syrup soaking into a rum cake. Today I want to talk to you about some lyrics from that sleepless Tuesday morning that inhabited my soul and informs my faith. Try something that you haven't tried from Cast Your Nets. When Lauren suggested in the summer of 2020 that the choir attempt a virtual recording of an anthem, the choir thought she was crazy. Singing alone was painful enough, but video recording my singing alone for posterity was a non-starter. And all of that computer equipment, but it was either that or no singing. We had to and did try something that we hadn't tried. It was risky and painful and beautiful and meaningful to others. It led us to our journey to Carnegie Hall. Jesus is alive, from Why Do You Seek the Living Among the Dead? What I love about this phrase in the music is that as you move from syllable to syllable, the pitch rises and the music gets louder. With only 3 words, you might think the emphasis should be on Jesus. The key word here is alive. How soon we forget, after eating the Easter ham and candy, that Jesus is alive and with us each and every day of our changed lives. Rightfully so, that joy should erupt from our hearts to our smiling lips, loudly proclaiming so simply what Easter and Christianity is all about. Jesus is alive. Do you love me? From Do You Love Me? Now here's my confession. As much as I love sacred music, I also love, maybe even more, musical theater. Throughout the last 6 months of practice of Once Upon a Morning, I feared, without missing a beat, that I would go from singing Once Upon a Morning to singing Once Upon a Mattress, a 60s musical about the Princess and the Pea starring Carol Burnett. Now, while Jesus was arising from the grave, Carol Burnett was going to rise from the swamp singing Shy. Pepper Choplin has such a sense of contemporary musical drama in his music that it was naturally moving me to musical theater. But I needed to focus on what I was doing. But for so many of us, the song Do You Love Me brought us even closer to musical theater, because the question that Pepper Choplin so beautifully and musically has Jesus asking of Simon Peter is the same question that Tevye in Fiddler on the Roof asks of his wife Golda. And as we sang Do You Love Me, the response many of us heard in our heads was Golda's reply in a Yiddish accent, Do I what? Suddenly, I was questioning, how do I reply when Jesus asks me, do you love me? Who dare to believe in the resurrection from Blessed Are the Ones? For thousands of years, Christians have been persecuted for believing. And now, in these strange times, most of our foundational beliefs, freedom, democracy, tolerance, are being undermined. Things that can be mathematically and scientifically proven are being questioned. If we can question whether the sky is really blue, how can we believe in the resurrection? Now is the very time that we must dare ourselves to believe in something that we have not seen and cannot prove. We are not alone. God is with us now. From the anthem, We Are Not Alone. Although not a part of Choplin's cantata, the chancel choir virtually recorded Choplin's choral anthem, We Are Not Alone. Our virtual recording of this anthem got us to Once Upon a Morning and Carnegie Hall. As I stood on that Carnegie stage, I could only think about the greats who had performed there over the years. Tchaikovsky, Bernstein, Horowitz, Ellington, Sinatra, Garland, and Counts? If these performers were like fine bottles of wine offered to the guests at the wedding at Cana, then I was like an old Coke bottle recently filled with dirty water from the Hudson. While I enjoyed singing, I was at best a mediocre singer. Why was I here, and would I ever be acceptable to the guests? 2 weeks after the concert, Carolyn and I had phoned a longtime close friend. To this friend, along with other friends and family, I had sent a daily email with ramblings about our trip to New York City. In one of those emails, I told the story of Choplin's anthem, We Are Not Alone, and provided a link to our virtual choir recording of that anthem. Earlier this spring, our friend had lost a longtime friend. Our friend, who believes but is not church-going, had struggled with the loss. In the midst of her grief, she clicked on the link that I had provided and listened to our virtual recording of Choplin's We Are Not Alone, and then listened to it again and again and again. To paraphrase Martin Luther's words, her heart, which was so full to overflowing, was solaced and refreshed by music when sick and weary. That is what music does, and that is part of our ministry. My Carnegie experience taught me, with all the fine wine in the world, every day we need Jesus to turn us, vessels of simple, maybe even dirty water, into wine just at the right time when we or others need it. We are not alone. God is with us now. For Carolyn and me, music, our Carnegie experience, our faith, this congregation have changed our lives. And All Saints must be there to help Jesus change the lives of others. All Saints and its ministry in Jesus Christ is the primary beneficiary of our generosity. After all, Jesus does not have a successful football team to bring worshipers into these seats and to help shine a spotlight on the good work of his church so that lives might be changed. He needs us and our generosity. Jesus, you are not alone. We are with you now.
I'm going to cheat and stand back here because that way you can't see me shaking. And yes, when Pastor Scott asked me to do this, I thought this would be easy. I can do this. Then I remembered I don't like public speaking. And I started to think, why? Why do I live in faith every day? And how do I do that? And, I give faithfully to the church. I'm one of the, I'm right there. I sign up every year. I increase my giving every year. It's, what I do. And when I'm asked to participate in any of the events, I say yes, and it's what I do. And so I thought, absolutely, I can have this conversation. Then I had to stop and think, why? And that was a lot harder, because I could cheat and take the really easy way out and tell you that my father was a Lutheran minister, has been for over 55 years. So I grew up in the church. I spent my whole life in a church in one way or another. But That's not why I do it. I could say that I've been very blessed by God. I received 2 children by the grace of God through adoption, and they just showed up on my door. We had a joke when we were, not a joke, but when we were having difficulty and my husband and I were making the decision, we said, well, we weren't really going to keep fighting. We were going to go out and pursue adoption because it takes a lot. If God wanted us to have kids, he'd figure out how to give them to us. And my goodness, he did. They just appeared through a coworker, and we were blessed that way. But that's still not why I do it. So I had to stop and think. And then I thought, my faith is with me no matter what. It doesn't matter whether I'm in this building or I'm outside or I'm at work. My faith is there. So what is my commitment to the church? And that is my commitment to the community in my faith and how important that community has been to me my entire life. And to that end, then it is Pastor Bonnie, it's Pastor Scott, it's Lauren, it's Lisa, it's everyone who makes this community come together, because I have benefited and needed and rejoiced with the community of Christ my whole life. And All Saints has been such a large and important part of that. I stumbled into it when I came out of college. I can very clearly remember my first day sitting in the sanctuary, and Jan Arthur led the choir, and I was so moved and have been so blessed with the musical givings of this church. I've watched Lisa with the youth group, and I think that's so amazing. A long time ago, I was a youth leader here, and probably a little too young to be a youth leader with kids not that far off from my age, but enjoyed that and that giving back. And so what I always think of when I think of the people is, how do they do it? My job, I leave here Monday through Friday. I'm doing something completely different. Saturdays, I'm wrapped up in what I'm doing. But they are here every day giving to make sure that we have this experience, that we are able to come and join together. And so I want to make their lives easier. It is for them that I make sure that they don't have to worry about what is that next line item being paid out of. How does that happen? That is important to me to make sure that that is lifted from them in the ways that I can. It is important to me to make sure that someone is there to fill in where they need it. If they need someone to be at Vacation Bible School, not the best teacher, but I'm going to do it and give my all. I always hope I get put in the kitchen because that's a lot easier to do. Sunday school, same thing. It's important to me that there is Sunday school. So while it may not be my best gift, it is where I give because that alleviates and makes it easier for others to give in their ways. And so I think that's where I came back to, is that it is the people, and that is why I live in this faith every day for how I choose to give my time, and not just to have it be given to me and have this kind of created space and events and functions that I feel important, but that I am giving in the ways that I can to make sure that those who do it every day and think about it and are charged with bringing that to us are able to do it with a little less on their plate, a little less on their stress, and it opens up their hearts and their minds for how they give.